Have you ever noticed how you promise yourself that you're finally going to change, that this time everything will be different, that you'll build new habits, adopt a new mindset, and create a completely new life, but somehow, even with all that intention, you end up right back where you started, stuck in the same patterns, repeating the same excuses, and feeling the same frustration over and over again? You tell yourself that this is the year everything shifts, that this is the moment you take control, that things are finally going to move forward, but as time passes, nothing really changes, and deep down you start to wonder why some people seem to break through barriers so effortlessly, while others stay trapped in the same cycle for years without understanding what's holding them back. And the truth is, it's not laziness, it's not a lack of talent, and it's definitely not bad luck, because the real reason is something much deeper, something invisible. Something that quietly controls your decisions, influences your actions, and shapes your reality even when you think you're the one in control. And that something is your subconscious mind. Because here's the uncomfortable truth that most people avoid facing: your subconscious mind doesn't actually care about your goals, your dreams, or your ambitions, because its primary function is not to help you succeed, but to keep you alive, to keep you safe, and to keep everything familiar, even if that familiarity is exactly what's making you feel stuck, frustrated, and unfulfilled. Think about that for a moment, because if your current life feels repetitive, limited, or even painful, your subconscious still sees that as normal, and anything that exists outside of that familiar pattern, no matter how positive or beneficial it might be, is automatically perceived as a threat, something unknown, something risky, something to be avoided at all costs. Now imagine that there are two versions of you operating at the same time: the conscious version that sets goals, makes plans, and desires change, and the subconscious version that constantly evaluates whether those changes are safe or dangerous, creating an internal conflict that most people never even realize is happening. The conscious you says that you want to succeed, that you want to grow, that you want more out of life, while the subconscious you quietly questions whether that success could lead to failure, rejection, embarrassment, or pain, and because of that perceived risk, it begins to resist, to slow you down, and to subtly push you back toward what feels familiar. The conscious you says that you want more money, more freedom, more opportunities, but the subconscious you remembers every moment of failure, every negative belief, every past experience that suggested that reaching for more could lead to disappointment. And so it creates hesitation, doubt, and fear without you even noticing. The conscious you tells yourself that you're ready to change, that this time is different, that you're going to push through no matter what. But the subconscious you brings up memories of past attempts, reminding you of how things didn't work out before, reinforcing the idea that trying again might just lead to the same outcome. And this is where the real battle happens, not outside in the world, not in your circumstances, but inside your own mind, where two opposing forces are constantly at war. And the reason most people stay stuck is because the subconscious mind almost always wins, simply because it is stronger, faster, and deeply wired into everything you think, feel, and do. This is why self-sabotage exists, not because people consciously want to fail, but because a deeper part of them believes that success could be dangerous, uncomfortable, or even threatening, and so it steps in to prevent that from happening in ways that are often subtle and difficult to detect. Your subconscious mind was programmed long before you had the awareness to question it, shaped by your environment, influenced by your experiences, and reinforced by the things you heard repeatedly growing up, whether those messages came from family, society, or your own interpretations of events. Maybe you were told that money is hard to earn, that success is only for certain types of people, that dreaming too big leads to disappointment, or maybe you experienced failure at an early stage, and your mind created a protective rule that said avoiding risk is the safest path forward. The problem is that your brain doesn't automatically update those beliefs as you grow, evolve, and gain new perspectives. Instead, it keeps running the same outdated programs in the background, influencing your decisions and behaviors without your conscious awareness. So even when your conscious mind sets new goals and desires a different future, your subconscious continues to operate based on old patterns, creating an invisible loop where you constantly want more, but find yourself pulled back into the same place over and over again. You try to move forward, but something inside you creates resistance. You build momentum, but suddenly you lose motivation. You get close to achieving something meaningful, but then you make decisions that take you backwards, and it all feels confusing because you don't understand why it keeps happening. But this is not random. This is not coincidence. This is programming. And the most dangerous part is that most people never become aware of it, choosing instead to blame external factors like circumstances, other people, or timing. without realizing that the real battle is happening internally. Have you ever found yourself on the verge of achieving something important only to suddenly procrastinate, lose focus, or make choices that sabotage your progress, and afterward you sit there wondering why you did that, why you let that opportunity slip away? That moment, that exact situation, is a perfect example of subconscious sabotage, because stepping into success would have taken you outside of your comfort zone, and your brain, prioritizing safety over growth, decided to pull you back. Comfort zones are powerful because they feel safe, predictable, and familiar, but at the same time, they act as invisible prisons that limit your potential, and your subconscious mind becomes attached to that safety, even if it means sacrificing everything you say you want. And here's the twist that changes everything. Your subconscious mind is not your enemy. It is not trying to ruin your life. It is actually trying to protect you. But the problem is that it is protecting you from the wrong things, treating discomfort, rejection, and uncertainty as threats, instead of necessary steps toward growth. In reality, growth requires discomfort, success requires risk, and transformation requires stepping into the unknown. But if your subconscious is wired to avoid all of those things, then it will continue to keep you exactly where you are, reinforcing the same identity over time. You start telling yourself that you're not disciplined, that you're not capable, that you're not lucky, but those statements are not facts. They are patterns created by a mind that has been conditioned to prioritize safety over progress. Your subconscious doesn't respond to logic the way your conscious mind does. Instead, it responds to repetition, emotion, and association, meaning that whatever you repeatedly think, feel, and experience becomes your reality over time. If you constantly tell yourself that you're not ready, that you're not good enough, that you're not like successful people, your subconscious accepts those ideas as truth and begins to filter your reality in a way that supports them. It influences what you notice, how you interpret situations, how you react to challenges, and even how you behave in moments that matter, creating a cycle where your actions align with your beliefs and your results reinforce those same beliefs. Instead of seeing opportunities, you start seeing obstacles. Instead of taking action, you hesitate. Instead of pushing forward, you retreat. And all of this feels completely natural, which is what makes it so dangerous. Because when something feels natural, you don't question it, you assume that's just who you are. But what if the way you think, the way you react, and the way you behave is actually the very thing that's holding you back? Once you begin to question that, everything starts to change because you stop fighting the wrong battle, you stop trying to rely on motivation alone, and you start focusing on rewiring the patterns that are controlling your behavior. The first step is awareness, because you cannot change what you are not aware of, so you need to start observing yourself, noticing when you procrastinate, when you hesitate, when you feel resistance, and understanding that those moments are not random, they are signals. The second step is challenging the stories your mind tells you, because every time you hear that internal voice saying you can't do something, you need to pause and ask whether that belief is actually true, or if it is simply familiar. Familiarity is not the same as truth. It is just repetition, and once you understand that, you begin to create space for new possibilities that were previously blocked by old patterns. The third step is creating new associations, because your brain links emotions to experiences, and if you associate discomfort with pain, you will avoid it. But if you begin to associate discomfort with growth, progress, and transformation, your entire perspective shifts. Fear stops being a signal to stop and starts becoming a signal that you are moving in the right direction, that you are stepping outside of your comfort zone, and that you are doing something meaningful. The fourth step is repetition, because your subconscious mind changes through consistent exposure, meaning that you need to reinforce new thoughts, new behaviors, and new responses every single day until they become automatic. At first, it will feel unnatural, uncomfortable, and even wrong, because you are going against years of conditioning, but that discomfort is actually a sign that you are breaking old patterns and creating new ones. And here is the key that most people overlook: you do not need to feel ready to take action, because waiting to feel ready is just another form of avoidance created by your subconscious. Action is what creates change. Action is what rewires your brain, and every time you act despite fear, hesitation, or doubt, you weaken the old patterns and strengthen the new ones. Over time, what once felt uncomfortable starts to feel normal. What once felt impossible starts to feel achievable, and the person you once believed you could never become starts to feel like your true identity. But this process does not happen overnight, and this is where most people give up, because they expect instant results. instant confidence, and instant transformation, without realizing that real change takes time, consistency, and patience. The same way your current patterns were built through repetition over time, new patterns require the same level of commitment, and the question you need to ask yourself is whether you are willing to go through that process. Because if you are not, then nothing will change and your subconscious will continue running the same script, leading you back to the same outcomes again and again. But if you decide to interrupt that pattern, to take control, and to commit to change, then everything starts to shift. Because your dreams are not being blocked by the world, they are being filtered by your mind. And once you understand that, once you truly accept that, you gain the power to change everything, because you are no longer fighting external circumstances, you are working with the system that controls your reality. So the next time you feel resistance, the next time you feel fear, the next time you feel like giving up, pause for a moment and ask yourself whether that feeling is real, or if it is simply your subconscious trying to keep you safe. Because that one question has the power to break patterns, to create awareness, and to shift your behavior in ways that can completely transform your life. And if you continue asking that question, if you continue acting despite resistance, and if you continue challenging the patterns that have been holding you back, you will not just change your habits, you will change your identity. And once your identity changes, your results will follow, because your actions, your decisions, and your behaviors will naturally align with the person you have become. So do not underestimate this process, because this is not just about mindset. This is about the foundation of everything you do, everything you think, and everything you experience. And the sooner you take control of it, the sooner your life begins to change in ways that once seemed impossible. Because in the end, the choice is always yours. Either you remain controlled by your subconscious patterns, or you become the person who takes control of them and rewrites the script of your own life.